The Western Conference this season is just filled with talented teams all fighting for a playoff spot, and the Houston Rockets aren't even in the play-in tournament, and they have a 500 record. The first seed has only won 9 more games than the 8th seed, and it's just been an action-packed season watching these teams battle it out every night they match up against each other. Now, if you're someone that doesn't care at all about how the Mavs finish this season, then this probably isn't the video for you. But if you're just a guy interested in the MVP race and Luka Doncic, then keep an eye out for a video I have coming out later on. So the Dallas Mavericks are currently sitting at the 7th seed with a 42-29 record. The interesting part of this equation is that the Mavs are only 2.5 games back from the 4th seeded Pelicans, who are also tied with the Clippers after their previous 2 losses. There are only 11 games left for the remainder of the season, and I'm very optimistic in where I could see the Mavs finishing in the standings. This is completely contingent on winning the majority of the games that they have left, so let's just take a look at the schedule. Started off, the Mavs played the Kings twice, who've already beaten the Mavs twice this season, but the previous 2 matchups were against a fairly different roster, and following that, the Mavericks played the Rockets twice, the Warriors twice, the Hawks, Hornets, Heat, Pistons, and finally finish off the season against Oklahoma City Thunder. Of course, none of these games are necessarily guaranteed wins by any means, but at the very least, they're all winnable. None of these teams are the Denver Nuggets or the Boston Celtics. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at my hypothetical ending to the season. As a quite arrogant Mavs fan, I'm going to go ahead and write off the Hawks, Rockets, Hornets, Pistons as wins because, in my opinion, the Mavericks just have absolutely no business losing any of those games at this point in the season. Regardless of how great the Rockets have been lately, they have been fairly solid though. Hypothetically, that's already 5 wins out of the 11. Now, I'm also inclined to not believe in the Warriors or Kings due to their inconsistencies this season, and yes, I completely understand the hypocrisy of that coming from a Mavericks fan. But anyways, so at the very least, I'm expecting to go 2-2 in those matchups, so that puts our theoretical end of the season at 7-2 out of 11. To make things simple, I'm going to resort back to the Mavs' previous game against the Heat, where the Mavs didn't really have much of a problem slowing down the Heat on defense and only had a minor struggles really scoring the ball. They still got to 119, I'm pretty sure, and I believe they kept the Heat to 107. Don't quote me on that. That was a little while ago. Now, I'm going to go ahead and continue my arrogance and mark down that as a win, because who knows what will happen in that game. But that puts the Mavs at 8-2 in this hypothetical, and to finish off the season against the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is a very interesting game, of course, because looking back on the last 2 games, the first one was a 30-point blowout where everyone on the Mavs were just feasting in the paint, grabbing every rebound in sight. Just the Thunder could not stop the Mavs in that game. And then the last game the Mavericks played against the Thunder, they lost by 7. And you might think that could be a big indication of what may happen in this final game to the season, knowing how consistent the Thunder have been and how good they are at finishing out games. But one major caveat to that is that Luka Doncic didn't play. So a Mavericks team without their primary offensive engine was still able to stay within 7 in a tough game fought against the 2nd seed. And this game, to me, I think is going to be a win for the Mavs. As long as they stay locked in, I think it should be a win. And by no means is that meant as a diss on the Thunder at all, but more of just a matchup disadvantage. The Thunder struggle on the boards, and the Mavs have more recently turned that into a strength of theirs. And when the Mavericks have a matchup advantage on their opponent, it typically ends in a win because it's really hard to deal up with a matchup advantage from the other team and stop Luka Doncic. A lot of teams' only goal when they play the Mavericks is just slow down Luka, and that's really all you need to do, which can be true in a lot of cases, but they don't have to focus on much else. The issue is that when you have that disadvantage, it's going to be quite difficult. Me marking down that win, you can say what you want, but this is my hypothetical, and that means the Mavericks are going to end the season going 10-2. That puts the Dallas Mavericks at 52 wins to end the season, theoretically, and somewhere between the 6th and 4th seed. I said theoretically, didn't I? Hypothetically, that puts them at somewhere between the 6th and 4th seed, and in my personal hypothetical, I'm going to go ahead and put them at the 4th seed. Now, if you watch some of my past videos, you might know where I'm going to lead with this, but for now, this video is just essentially alluding to my next video. And for now, I just want to thank you for listening to my end of season predictions for the Dallas Mavericks remainder of the season. Thank you. Goodbye.